Hello and welcome to What Culture. I'm Josh, joined today by Ewan because we're hot in the press for Ant-Man and The Wasp, which again, we sadly don't get until August, but that's not really what we're talking about today because the director of that movie has said it's always been a dream of his to direct a Fantastic Four film, and considering the Fox and Disney merger is all but gone through by now, they signed a $71 billion deal. We're going to do something a bit different today and just sort of theorize how in the hell could Marvel introduce the Fantastic Four into their Marvel Cinematic Universe. And Ewan of all people, our comics expert,
the most unlikely of sources.
The most unlikely of sources has a theory for us.
Yes.
We're going to talk through the validity of this today and if it would be a cool way to sort of give a spin on a franchise which has been down on its luck for well over a decade now after two pretty terrible movie series, and I guess one of them wasn't even a series because it was that bad.
It was that bad.
Come on, you take us away.
So not only should Marvel look to be introducing the Fantastic Four ahead of the X-Men, hot take, I think they actually have the groundwork already laid for such a thing to happen. Throughout the MCU so far, we have seen a science community of sorts. There are the Starks, there are the Pyms, the Selvigs. Cut to footage of him running around like a madman there, maybe.
Best
I don't know.
Of the MCU so far.
But there is an interesting thing that have developed there, because we know that Hank Pym and the Starks have a little bit of a history. They don't get along all the time, and then that kind of could potentially add a new dimension to Avengers 4, I'm thinking. Yep. But with the way the franchise is headed, it looks as though Robert Downey Jr. is leaving. We've been over this a billion times. It looks as though Phase 4 is going to be this new, really daring and bold post Infinity War slate, whatever. I think that in a film down the line, you will have all the science bros huddled around in a room and they're tracking something. It's an absolute unit. He's massive. He's coming across the cosmos. He's Galactus.
He's not a cloud this time. He's a man. He's in the sky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's coming. He's like bombing for Earth, and the Silver Surfer has already scouted ahead, and they're thinking, what is this? What is this? Who could possibly? Well, Robert Downey Jr. Well, Tony Stark is gone now. He's retired. We can't rope him out. He's doing his own thing now. He could be retired. He could be dead. I don't know. But he's not motivated at this current point in time to assist these fellows. So Hank Pym, he stands up.
Good lad.
He sighs. He writes his name down on a piece of cloth.
Yeah.
Says, I know a guy, flings it onto the table, camera zooms in, boom, Reed Richards, Baxter Building address.
Oh!
Yep, and then that would be the setup for a prequel Fantastic Four film set in the 80s, because I have a theory with this. I think that because Hank Pym was involved with S.H.I.E.L.D., he will be privy to loads and loads of information surrounding all the stuff that they've covered up in the time being. We know that Captain Marvel is establishing a new precedent here, because no one knew who Carol Danvers was prior to the film's announcement. It looks as though S.H.I.E.L.D. may have gotten up to some cover up there. They know all about, it's established in Avengers that they know all about aliens before all this anyway. So that's really interesting. And the one thing that they could do with this, I think, which kind of adds even more really interesting dynamics to this, is that they don't even have to have the original lineup. They could really experiment with this and make the Fantastic Four their own. If you know of the comics, you'll know that it hasn't always been the classic lineup of Reed Richards, Sue Storm, Ben Grimm, and Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, Invisible Woman, The Thing, and Mr. Fantastic. There have been other heroes that have gotten involved as well. Of course, Luke Cage, She-Hulk, and two of the most interesting characters of all, Ant-Man and Spider-Man.
Yes, that's exactly who I was hoping you were going to say that.
And I think they have a really interesting thing to do here. I think Marvel in the future could potentially experiment with the past and tell stories that they would be perhaps constrained to do in the present with the continuity they've already established. How about we have one Fantastic Four film set in the 80s, ends in tragedy, Johnny Storm or whatever is killed. They've seen that happen in the comics before. Then that gives Reed Richards a motivation not to come back and help with all the stuff going forward. He's also being covered up by S.H.I.E.L.D. because they don't want anyone to know about the cosmic rays kind of experiment they were doing. And then in the future, you have the gateway open for either one of Ant-Man or Spider-Man to enter the franchise and then really convince everyone that the Fantastic Four is a property worth doing.
Right, I have questions. I have some questions. Some I'm going to answer myself. First off, I love the idea of a prequel. I think Marvel are opening the doors to that. We've already seen one in like the Captain America: The First Avenger, and of course Captain Marvel. And you immediately go to, if the Fantastic Four have been around, why doesn't anyone know about them? And I know you mentioned the S.H.I.E.L.D. cover-up, but even without that, it's not exactly a huge stretch to assume there have been heroes before. Even back in the first Avenger, we had to assume Captain America was this sort of like wartime icon, even though he wasn't mentioned in Iron Man or like the Incredible Hulk. You just had to sort of assume that knowledge, as you would kind of have to assume that Captain Marvel has been around. The most powerful Avenger we've known so far has just been there. So I think you could sort of pull off that sequel idea. I like the idea of them catching up to the present day, but
you're gonna break my heart now.
Well, I'm gonna hopefully not break your hand.
Me.
When Marvel are going forward, and they need a Phase 4 that's very current and very pushing ahead. And I know we're going to catch up with these characters in the future, but I don't know whether you introduce a sort of classic Fantastic Four lineup immediately to break it apart and then insert like Ant-Man and Spider-Man, even though I would sort of love that. I want the interplay. I like that you kept the interplay with Johnny Storm and Spider-Man. Still a possibility in that timeline.
Definitely.
But I don't know if going to the past and going to the present, especially after Captain Marvel, would work.
I think there's a dilemma here.
Go on.
For Marvel to go forward, because obviously it makes sense that they have the appeal of the MCU lies in the fact you have all these heroes interacting with one another, and potentially in eliminating more of them, you do have the dilemma of we may have wasted potential there. The MCU is not averse to doing this before. Obviously, Daredevil season 1 took the bizarre decision to kill off Betty Urich at the end of the first season, despite the fact there are so many stories you could tell with that character. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of open to all of these things. The main reason for this being, I thought it would be cool to have that set up is because you could potentially have Captain America go, oh, the Human Torch doesn't need the android from World War II, and then you could build on a little Easter egg that was in the first Avenger. But I don't know.
I don't even. I know that Marvel really need to sort of bring the Fantastic Four back in a big way, and it can't just be the sort of. Even though the two Fox movies were different, they sort of were very kind of like the story that they use, although they were different ages and the characters were sort of. Well, one was very dark, one was very light, and like it was still too similar. It was too constrained by sort of a classic Fantastic Four lineup. Whereas if you did go to the past and then sort of jump to the present, you could change these characters in ways that would make them unique to the MCU, and then obviously having MCU characters themselves interact with them would be cool. For me, I think it's a good premise, and I would like to see them do more prequel stuff, but I think you need to really establish the core team first, because if we go forward and every movie is just sort of another Avengers 0.5, even kind of like, you could argue Homecoming or Civil War was sort of like Avengers movies in a way. I mean, Spider-Man less so, but it still relied heavily on other characters, and if you make these teams kind of one interchangeable thing,
there's the novelty end.
Does the novelty end? Would you rather have them like distinct? Are the Avengers the classic lineup, right? Is it just whoever's around at the moment? And do you really want that with the Fantastic Four? I think that if Marvel are going to get the brand back, I don't think they would want to dilute it in that way. Yet this concept is good, and I do want them to see other MC. I'm really conflicted.
I think I agree with you totally. There's the thing that I said for a while now that the Fox deal doesn't just present massive headaches for all of us as consumers. I think it presents headaches for the way the MCU is built. I think that there is a danger that you could potentially uproot the foundations of this universe and make things very not make sensey.
Yes, exactly. I mean, we haven't even touched on how they're going to have to introduce mutants to this franchise, but that's an entirely different video. For now, this has been Ewan's theory of how Marvel are going to introduce the Fantastic Four into their MCU, if and when they should acquire the characters. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below, whether you agree with this or whether you'd like to see a different take on these heroes. As always, I've been Josh.
I've been Ewan.
And we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.